Today we're going to be looking at division of fractions. The learning objectives are to be able to divide fractions. And in order to do this, we need to recall some prior knowledge. We need to know how to do multiplication of fractions, simplify fractions, and reciprocals. Now, all that stuff should be within our grasps, but I will also talk about how to do each of these things in this lesson in case you don't remember, but you have done it before, you should know. So let's start off with a question. What is 3 divided by 3/4? Now, if you think about it that way, it doesn't jump out at you what the answer is. The question doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense. If the question was, what is 30 divided by 3? That makes sense. We've got a way of doing that. We have to think about this another way in order to make sense of it. So if I say what is 30 divided by 3, I could also say how many 3's are in 30. So another way of asking what is 3 divided by 3/4 is how many 3/4 are in 3. And then it makes a bit more sense. If we draw out a diagram, we've got 3 whole ones here. Let's split them up into quarters. And let's see how many lots of 3/4 I've got. So there's 1 3/4, 2 3/4, 3 3/4, and 4 3/4. So 3 divided by 3/4 is 4. Okay, so that's all well and good for small numbers, but what we don't want to have to do is draw out a big lot of these blocks in case we had to do something like 100 divided by something. You don't want to draw 100 blocks and split them up and count them. There's got to be a quicker way. And the quicker way involves reciprocals and involves multiplying fractions. So I'll explain what both of those mean with this example. So we can say that instead of just having 3 divided by 3/4, that is the same as 3 times by the reciprocal. So first thing to notice is reciprocal is the inverted way of writing something. So if you've got a fraction, you turn it upside down, and that is the reciprocal. So if it asks for a reciprocal of a fraction, you turn it upside down. If it asks the reciprocal of a whole number, it is 1 over that whole number. Hopefully you remember these from those homework sheets that ask about what is the reciprocal. And the reason we're able to do this, the reason this is true, is because I can change this divide to a times because I have inverted a fraction. It's the same as saying that 3 divided by 3/4. Well, if I change this so it's the opposite, I change this so it's the opposite, and then those changes cancel each other out and it gives me the same answer, and the sum is easier to work out. So then I've got to remember how to multiply fractions. So if you're multiplying fractions by a whole number, you do the whole number multiplied by the top, and you leave the bottom exactly the same. So 3 times 4 makes 12. You leave the bottom exactly the same. It's a slightly different technique if it's a fraction times a fraction, but we'll talk about that later. So we've multiplied the fraction, and then we have to simplify the fraction if possible. So this simplifies down to 4 because 3 goes into 12 4 times. So this is how to divide fractions. It's probably worth your while writing down this example with annotations. So you want to pause the video here so you can copy this down, and then we'll go through a little set of examples, practice exercise, whatever you want to call it, before you have a go at doing some of these yourself. So pause the video now. Okay, so this little exercise, this isn't today's work. This is something I'm going to work through with you. You can think of these as examples, and I will talk you through how to do each of them, and then there'll be an exercise after this. And if you're feeling very confident with this topic, then you can pause the video now, have a go yourself, and check that you're right before doing the other exercise. But apart from that, I will be working through them with you. So the first question is, we have got to do 7 times 3/5. When you've got a whole number times a fraction, you do the whole number times the numerator, and you leave the denominator, the bottom number, the same. That's going to be 7 times 3 makes 21 over 5. Okay. Next one. So we've got a fraction times by a fraction. Now the way you do that is you're going to do numerator times numerator and denominator times denominator. It's as easy as that. 2 times 4 makes 8, 3 times 7 makes 21. You do not need to make common denominators. You don't need to do any of the things you do for addition and subtraction of fractions. This is the easiest way of doing it. Right, so then we've got to divide. So I don't want to draw out 9 blocks and split them into thirds and count. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the trick of I'm going to change a divide to a times, and I'm going to put down the reciprocal, the inverted fraction. So instead of 9 divided by 2/3, I'm going to change that to 9 times 3 over 2. 9 times 3 makes 27, and the 2 stays on the bottom. It's the same thing with fractions, except a mistake which you could make is turning them both upside down. Don't do that. So the first fraction stays exactly the same. So you've got 2/3. Then the divide changes to a times, and the second fraction turns upside down. So 2/3 change to a times, 4/10 change to 10 over 4. Times the top numbers, 2 times 10 makes 20, 3 times 4 makes 12, and then we want to simplify if possible. So what numbers go into 20 and 12? 4 does. So 4 goes into it 5 times, 4 goes into it 3 times. Didn't spot that, you could have halved them and halved them again. Right, next question. It's got a minus sign in there, but that minus isn't a takeaway, it's just showing that this fraction is negative. And it's the exact same process, except there's just going to be a minus sign in your question, in your answer. So I'm going to change the divide into a times. I'm going to turn this fraction upside down. So it's going to be 4 times minus 12 over 7. 4 times 12 makes 48. The 7 stays the same, so 7 minus 48 over 7. Right, then the last one, I've got 2 minuses in there, because I just want to remind you that a minus times a minus, or a minus divided by a minus, it turns into a plus. Okay, so that's going to be the same as 2 times 1/7, which is 2/7. Right, then the extension example is a word question. There's not really that much that's difficult with this. It's just because it is worded, some people get confused. Now, if it was in a big test where you don't know what's what, you've got to think about the words carefully. But for today, at least, you know that it's going to involve division of fractions. So if you want to make a question using these numbers involving division of fractions, it would be 6 divided by 3/4. And that's what you've got to do, because that's how you find out how many 3-quarter pints you can get from a 6-pint jug. So 6 divided by 3/4 is the same as 6 times by 4/3. So the divide changed to a times, the fraction turned upside down. 6 times 4 makes 24. The 3 stayed the same. Simplify it down. 24. 3 goes into it 8 times. So you can get 8 cups of water. Okay, so this should help you with the exercise. Okay, so the exercise you want to do is exercise 8.4 of dividing fractions, questions 1 to 12. Okay, so there's some later questions I've said, don't worry about doing them. There's an investigation, I've said don't worry about doing it. I want to focus on questions 1 to 12. I am available for help if you either ask in the chat or email me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I want you to actually ask for help, look stuff up, look at this video again, rather than just leaving things blank. I don't want to see lots of blank answers. I don't want to see lots of question marks instead of answers. I want you to have a go at every question. And if you don't know how to do something, try to find out what to do. Okay, so that's your task for today.